Okay, it's 9:02 in Canberra, so we will start proceedings, I think. It's lovely to see you all as close to face as we can get at the moment. Thank you for joining us today. If you haven't seen me on Zoom before, my name is Lauren Murray and I'm a Senior Legal Officer in the Australian Attorney General's Department. I'm assisting the Pilon Cybercrime Working Group to deliver the Cyber Fundamentals courses. We are very pleased to welcome you to the first Zoom session for this course. And this is the first opportunity for both classes to get together, meet each other and work on a case study fact scenario. The session we've prepared for you today is the first of 3 sessions, which we will hold over the next month. There are 2 more sessions on the 14th of October and the 28th of October, so please feel free to put those in your diaries if you haven't already. The ultimate goal of these case study sessions is for everyone to gain a shared understanding of how the digital forensic content you are studying is applied to a fact scenario that you might come across in real life. By working through this case study from investigation through to prosecution, we are hoping this will firstly give you the opportunity to learn more about the challenges that your counterparts, prosecutors or police, are dealing with in their professional lives. And secondly, to help to identify where more collaboration and a shared approach to these issues can help when you're working on cases involving digital evidence in the future. The fact scenario we've prepared, which hopefully you've had an opportunity to read through over the past week, is similar to the case study that participants would normally work through at the Pilon Cybercrime workshops, which 3 have been held in previous years. However, we're all a little more used to Zoom these days, hopefully, so we're trying a different approach. At this stage of the course, we're hoping that you will be up to the 5th module, which I will just bring up on the slides. There we go. So we've worked through some introductory issues in the last 5 weeks, and we should be up to identifying digital evidence. However, please don't worry if you've been busy or family commitments or anything have meant that you haven't yet completed that module for this week. This is intended to be a general case study where everyone's experience will be relevant at some stage of the process. We encourage you to share what you know and cooperate and just have a discussion about finding the best pathway forward. I will now introduce our facilitator for today. We are delighted to welcome John Peacock, Senior Investigator in the Digital Child Exploitation Team at the New Zealand Department of Internal Affairs. John has significant professional experience working on a range of digital evidence and formats, and we've been privileged to host him for several Cyber events over the past 2 years. If you've accessed the members' content in the Pilon website, you may have seen his previous presentations for Cyber Fundamentals and Cyber Intermediate courses. So with that, and without further ado, I will hand over to John. Over to you, John, and thank you.
Thank you, Lauren, and welcome everybody. Tarofa lava, malo alele, ulavanaka, kia ora ana, whakalofa lahi atu, maloni, Maori, halo ola keta, alii, lokwe, and keselehia. Kia ora tātou, ko tangi te reo, te maunga, ko tapu te ranga te awa, no whanganui a tara ahau, ko Peacock, toku whānau, or John toku ingoa. Good morning, everybody, and it's a great privilege for me to be here today to facilitate the session. It's a great opportunity for one and all to get together to discuss the training that you're going through. I can see from the modules that you've undertaken that it is a very interesting arena and an interesting piece of study to be working through. I have been working in the digital child exploitation team from DIA in New Zealand since the very early 90s. I have covered areas from online covert investigations through to undertaking cyber investigations, and I am qualified in a range of various forensic products. So the operating model that our unit has enables us to have a broad range of experience and capabilities in the area of child exploitation content investigations. And while our area or our mandate is slightly different to the particular scenario we're going to work through today, I believe it gives us a very good set of fundamentals that allow us to speak to the critical points of this case study. In terms of digital evidence detection and security and presentation, these things are incredibly important for these cases because they are the principal connection between the offence and the prosecution of that offending. If we don't have our procedures and our processes done correctly, any court case that we bring may fall over at the first hurdle. So getting things right in the location of digital devices and digital evidence allows us to find the evidence of the offending. It may also identify additional areas of offending that we may not have realised were present. The ways in which we seize, handle, analyse and present that evidence are all critical in terms of meeting the needs and requirements of your legal systems and making sure that any case we run is successful when it gets to court and doesn't fall over because of the work that we have failed to do or done inappropriately or inefficiently. So the case scenario that we're going to work through today is one that enables us to work together and come up with ideas around the types of evidence, the types of processes and approaches we take, and the methods of accessing that information, and basically a procedure through a cybercrime matter. So I just wanted to, again, echo Lauren's comments and encourage everybody to participate and collaborate with your classmates. The way we learn best is to learn from each other, and one of the best methods of learning is case studies in this example. So I would encourage you to fully engage in this exercise. So I know that some information has been provided through. I just wanted to read through the scenario so we can get to start on looking at what the cases we are looking at, and I hope that we have shared this with you previously. So Maria, who is 15, and Kai, who is 17, both live in the fictional country called Oceania. They have been in a relationship for a few months. They met through Kai's friend Bob, who is 18. One day when Bob was hanging out with Kai at his house, Bob downloaded and installed hacking software onto Kai's laptop to capture all of his social media and passwords. This software was discreet, so Kai did not notice anything. A few days later, the hacking software sent all of Kai's passwords to Bob's phone, including his Facebook password. Bob's Wi-Fi was down at home, so he went to the library to use one of their computers. He logged into Kai's Facebook and, pretending to be him, messaged Maria asking for nude pictures. Maria and Kai had previously exchanged nude pictures of themselves online, so Maria took some more photos on her phone and sent them to Kai on Facebook Messenger. Once Bob received the photos on Kai's account, he uploaded them to a website called explicit.com, which illegally holds sexually explicit pictures. Explicit.com paid Bob for providing those pictures. To ensure Kai didn't find out what happened, Bob deleted Kai's Facebook account, logged off the library computer, and went home. Sometime later, Maria found out that the pictures were circulating online from a mutual friend, and she immediately broke up with Kai, who insisted he didn't know anything about them and hadn't shared them any further. Kai tried to log into his Facebook account to find out what happened, only to discover it had been deleted. Noticing that Maria was rightly upset, her parents found out what had happened and made a complaint to the police. The police arrested Kai and brought him to the station for questioning. Further investigations following the interview with Kai uncovered the ISP address of the library computer, which was used to upload the photos. Further inquiries at the library led police to Bob. When he sees police walking up to his address, he quickly deletes the passwords and the explicit.com app from his phone, which he has used to view the pictures several times since he uploaded them. So I just want to open up the first exercise by having just a general discussion, if we can, about the devices that we believe will be of interest in this inquiry to our investigators and to our forensic team. So happy to open the floor to anyone who would like to start that conversation.
And I just might jump in to say that please make sure that you unmute yourself or raise your hand and we can call on you.
Thank you, John. If I may. Oh, I see Tupo.
No, go ahead, Nixon. I was quite slow in raising my hand.
All right. Well, thank you, John, and before I answer that question, greetings to all. Sorry, I'm not as good as John. I have not memorized all the greetings yet. I hope at the end of this I will. So, but anyways, seeing this question, I quickly think of two main devices. The cell phone that Kai's cell phone, which Bob installed the software, the hacking software, and devices, and the computer at the library, which will also include the desktop, the CPU. So those three devices quickly come to my mind. So be interested to hear additional devices from the other colleagues. Perhaps Tupo has some more in our mind. So thank you all.
Thank you, Nixon. Tupo?
Thanks. Yeah, I'll just jump in on that. And I agree, the laptop, Kai's laptop, Bob's phone, the library computer, and I'd add also Maria's phone to that. Yeah, those are the devices that I can think of at the moment.
Very good. Are there can anybody think of anything else that might be of use in a digital sense?
Sorry, what do you mean in a digital sense?
So it may not necessarily be a computer as we think of it, but other sources of digital evidence that might be of value.
Banking account transactions from Bob's account, to prove that payment from explicit.com. and his payment, oh, no, sorry, just the payment from explicit.com. There would be, yeah, maybe just that at the moment.
No, very good.
We have a raised hand from Alakizio. Alakizio, did you want to jump in? You might have to unmute yourself. There we go.
Yes. Oh, sorry about that. Just in addition to the wait. Just in addition to all the devices, I think one of digital sense devices going to be important. Like if the library have some any kind of a camera, like a CCTV camera, I think it's going to be useful to pinpoint the time, especially with the time that Bob used that setting computer to access to that website that he was sending the or sell the new photo of Maria.
Excellent. Good point. Ayaz, do you have anything to add to that?
Bula, and good morning from Fiji. Thank you, Mr. John, and the rest of the members for organizing this. I was thinking if we have some connection through if I was investigating this matter from Fiji, if I have some connection to some international law enforcement agencies or a law enforcement portal with the Facebook, perhaps execution of some warrants or other international legal instruments to explicit.com to see if those pictures were there on their site. Also to the Facebook, because that's the medium that's been used to post these pictures. Definitely Maria's phone, that is the source of the nude pictures that we are talking about here.
Mm-hmm. No, that's excellent. Thank you for that contribution, everybody. One of the reason the CCTV camera footage is a really interesting one, and often we get easily trapped into thinking digital evidence is the computer or the phone. The CCTV camera is a critical piece because it's the hardest thing in these cyber investigations is to confirm who was at the keyboard at the time the offence took place. And in this case, we have video footage or CCTV footage of that very moment. And that's a really good reminder to us to make sure that we don't get too focused on those traditional phone, laptop, desktop, computer type digital devices, because those cameras can hold some very, very valuable information, and in fact can be absolutely critical to bridging the gap between who was doing the thing on the keyboard and the actual online event. So look, very well done, everybody. It's you picked up all of the main points there. I have a second kind of warm-up question. In terms of any other, and we already had Ayaz pick that up, so well done to him. What other assets or digital footprints or digital accounts or media do you think are worthy of investigating? We've had the Facebook account you mentioned, the explicit.com account. What other online accounts or assets, digital assets, do you think that we would need to look into using the tools that we have at our disposal and using international assistance and cooperation? So again like to pass over to the group to make any suggestions.
We have Gazio Rakadolu who has raised his hand, and Ayaz. So we might go with Gazio and then Ayaz. Gazio, are you there? Could you unmute? I think we might be having a little bit of a technical difficulty there. In the meantime, I think we might pass to Ayaz. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I was thinking to see the internet service providers that are providing this service, and perhaps look for the data session under the accounts these two have from the internet service providers, and also to do some inquiries at the library, also to see if there's any record of Bob going to the library and logging the computers there.
Yeah, very good point. Again, that is critical in bridging the gap between the real world and the online. So to have a login event or some sort of verification of identity at the library is really valuable. Garcio, have you your hand up? Have you got something to contribute?
I think we might
if-
still be having technical difficulties, sorry.
Yeah. Do we go to Malachi? Am I pronouncing that right?
Yep.
What would you like to suggest there?
I would like to add on what my Fijian counterpart has already mentioned. I think one of the digital assets that I think would a source of evidence would be the software, the hacking software that Bob used. We can talk with we can find possible means if it connect with the software developer to get information from that hacking software. Thank you.
That's a very, very good point, Malachi. That's a critical point in this investigation is the type of software that was used by Bob. Was it something that he has created himself? Is it something that he has just purchased from a website or wherever he may have got that from? That may lead to other areas of investigation as well. So yeah, very well done. That's a very important part of it. Ayaz, did you have another?
I think Malachi read my mind. I was also about to talk about the software that he had installed to retrieve all the passwords that was on Kai's device.
Very good.
We have Tupo has raised her hand.
Can I just add on as well? Also, maybe we've already covered it in question 1, but looking into Maria's Facebook account, those messages between her and Kai's deleted account, Obviously, I think she definitely still have her copies of those messages. And also, since the nude photos that were taken, she took them on her phone, so she would definitely have the metadata about the photo. So that's also probably something to look into. I was just wondering, I have a question about IS's contribution, about the ISPs. Maybe someone can help with this, but here in Tonga, we only have two service providers. This is the national service providers, Digicel and Ucall. Does IS mean to contact those national service providers and if so, what kind of information would be available from our scenario from these service providers, since the service they were using is an international service, Facebook. I think explicit.com is probably something international. Yeah. So just putting that out there, just curious.
Sure. No, that's a good question, Tupo. Thank you for raising that. I'd like, if you don't mind, Ayaz, would you like to take the first go at responding to Tupo?
Yes, thank you, Tupo, for asking that question. You know, these guys would be using some sort of internet, and they would have an account with the service providers. So if you execute a search warrant to the service providers, if you have identified either they're using the data from either Digicel or Vodafone or whatever service providers they are, and they will be able to tell you who holds that account. So, you know, it will narrow it down to Bob, that he has used that with the IP address to link it to the person.
Great. Thank you, Ayaz.
I hope that answers the question.
Sorry, I might just jump in too. Gazio was unable to unmute, so I'll just read out what he's written in the chat. My contribution is only how he received the money, if he was using Western Union or another mode of receiving money from explicit.com.
Again, that's a very important, it's a very important consideration to have. If you have financial transactions that are taking place, that is often a very reliable and solid source of connection to individuals. People tend not to do things with a financial motivation and give it to somebody else. So for the most part, where people are using money transfers, it is for their own benefit, and it ties them very, very tightly to that activity. So thank you, Gazio. That's a very, very valuable insight. I just wanted to very quickly just touch on the scenario itself. In terms of, at this point, who do we think are the individuals who are potentially facing charges? Go ahead, Tupo.
So definitely Bob, and it's not clear from the scenario whether he's the one who created the software, the hacking software, or whether it's someone else. So if it is someone else, then whoever that other person is who made the software. So those two persons. And yeah, I note that the question in the question sheet said not to charge Kai and Maria. So yes, they're out of, I'm not allowed to charge them, I guess.
You wanting to charge Kai as well, right?
I mean, it's an interesting point of discussion. We have a 17-year-old engaging with a 15-year-old producing nude material. Now, the age of consent in New Zealand is 16, so Maria is
Yes.
under that age of consent.
Yes.
So there will be clearly very different rules in each of our nations around where that liability lies. I think from a public interest sense, purely from a New Zealand perspective, in this case, Maria is the victim, even though she has created that content in the context of the relationship with her partner. It would be very, very unlikely that any agency in New Zealand would look to criminalize the actions of Maria in this particular scenario. So while it's an important thing to consider, and I would encourage everyone to make those appreciations as you're going through these scenarios, there is also that public interest in victim impact kind of consideration as well. Elma, you have raised your hand. Can I your contribution?
Yeah, Tupou said what I wanted to say, but just to add on, it's sort of like a question. What about explicit.com? Is there a possibility of finding out who owns that and then consider them as part of this as well and getting them charged?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good point. I know there have been, and there again we come back to the differences in what the laws are in different nations. And I think if we take from this scenario that explicit.com is not Oceania based, it's based in another country outside of the jurisdiction of Oceania. I know that from the real world, there has been cases where website owners have been held accountable, and certainly in the US court, for posting material that they don't have consent for. So there will be certainly the potential for that, as raising that as a potential avenue for further matters. But again, it's probably a referral out to another agency, to the jurisdiction that explicit.com are based in, and the information provided to them for further action. So I think it's again a very important thing to consider and to look at if the availability is there, if they're in a jurisdiction that's non-friendly or non-cooperative, it may create some slight difficulties, but that is certainly something valuable to consider. So IRC, did you have another comment to add in?
Yes, if you look at the victim, Maria, she's under the legal age 15. And like my friend Alma has said, definitely explicit.com. And I know all over the country, the law enforcement agencies will provide that support, because a victim's nude picture is circulated. For matter any agency, there will be support. Definitely, yes, to consider charges against explicit.com through mutual assistance from Oceania to wherever explicit.com is hosted. Yep. I was thinking for Kai, even though there are clear instructions, like one of my friends has said, that not to charge, but he's in possession. If you read the scenario, previously they have shared nude pictures. He is in possession of explicit photographs of a underage legal age girl, and in our country, definitely it'd be offense to have that.
Yep. So that's coming back to the information prior to the involvement of Bob, where they had shared material to one another. Again, it would come back to each of our nations' legislative frameworks and the kind of prosecution policies around whether or not Kai would be considered for a charge of possession of that sort of material. So, no, thank you for that input. I think there was Lauren, was there a comment in the chat
Yes,
picked up on?
yeah. Again from Gazio, which I'll read out. One of the digital assets which I believe would definitely help is to take a look at the library computer. If the computer is part of a network, then I believe that the network devices such as a switch might have a record of data sent out and received. Hence, if the library's computers are monitored, who is using them and at which time, I believe they might connect Bob to being the person communicating with Maria. Just a thought.
And a very good one. Yeah, absolutely. Again, it depends on the configuration of the library connection network and setup. If they do connect or collect all of the data that's transmitted through, there would be some real valuable information in there. Even from a connection point of view, we've come back to tying Bob to that location, which is really important. So, no, very good point, Gazio. Thank you. Tupou, did you have a question?
Just another comment on whether to charge Maria and Kai. I mean, from the prosecutorial side, you'd always consider who's going to witness for your case if you end up charging everyone. So in this scenario, of course, you take them both aside and use them as witnesses.
It's a very good point. If we are hoping to focus the prosecution on the illegal activity that has happened, and we want witnesses to testify to that, if we're charging them as well, then it may get a bit tricky to solicit or get that witness information to sustain our case. So that's a very good point. Yep. And I think before we move on to the breakout room, I ask if we have one more question, and then we can move into the next phase. Ayaz, did you have a...
Oh, sorry. Ayaz. Sorry, Ayaz, go ahead.
I think I've wrongly raised my hand. Sorry for that.
Sorry, no problem.
Okay, so I have a question. Perhaps everybody can help me with this. So how far can we go as charging Kai? Let's say if we assume some of us want to charge Kai, and given that the information revealed were through invasion of privacy, how can we use evidence revealed from his phone that especially in regards to those nude photos of an underage? Even these photos were obtained through starting from invasion of privacy. Just a question for all, maybe.
Yeah. So in responding to that, I think there are probably two sort of quite separate events that have taken place here. One is the exchange of files or photos between Maria and Kai during their relationship, and then there's the interaction of Bob, who's come in and solicited more images from her, and then passed those on and shared those out to the rest of the world. So if we look at both of those in isolation, given the offence sheets that we have and the different offences that we are looking at, we can certainly look at sets of offences for both of those behaviours. So from an investigative space, I would look to have them as two separate events, effectively. So looking at the activities in the context of the relationship between Kai and Maria, and then the activity of Bob as a separate separate case, effectively, even though there's a connection between the two. So no, very, very good points, and thank you all for your contributions. That's really helpful. I can't think of anything that has been missed, so very well done to everybody. So what we're going to do is have a breakout now. So we're going to drop into a couple of breakout rooms where you're able to discuss the process. So effectively, I want you to consider during this breakout room that you've just joined the investigation as a senior investigator and you've been assigned to this particular case. Based on the conversations that we've had around the digital evidence that's available, come up with a list of the offences that could be in play. So we're going to have two. Lauren's going to facilitate breaking you all into separate rooms, and my understanding is that you have been sent a list of offences. Is that right, Lauren? So these are effectively the consistent set of offences that align with the Budapest Convention kind of guidance around cybercrime investigations and offences. So if we use those as our basis of our jurisdiction, we can have that discussion. So what will happen is we will just break away. I'll pop into both of the rooms at different times to answer any questions you may have or to help the conversations move on. It would be great if when we come back to feedback, we may have someone from the group to volunteer or forced into reporting back to the group, and then we can get some feedback on those discussions. So I think this is an opportunity to share. This isn't a test. There's no grading behind this. So there are no wrong answers. There are no wrong questions. And in fact, one thing I was told that the only wrong question is the one that you have but don't ask. So there's a really good opportunity to bounce ideas off one another and come to these conclusions. So Lauren, if I can ask for the breakout rooms to start up.
Yep. So now everyone, you should receive an invitation to join a breakout room. I think you'll need to accept that when it pops up on your screen. And then we will split you into two groups of roughly equal sizes, and you'll be randomly placed into those groups. So one of you will be with me to scribe, write down what's discussed, and the other will be with my colleague Mariana. So please stand by. I will create the breakout rooms now.
We've all come back to the main room. I think from looking at both of the groups, we may not have finished all of those questions, which I think is a good sign because we're getting lots of conversations and we're getting some really good exchange of ideas going through there. I think for both groups, we had made a start on looking at the elements of the offence. So looking at what are the things that were necessary for us to prove to get a successful action or successful conviction. So we were looking at what those elements were. Are we able to just get some feedback from each of the groups on the conversations that you've had, just summarising the questions as far as we've got? So do we have someone from group one who would like to feedback to the group the nature of their discussions?
I'll just pop up the notes that we had from group one, but if anyone would like to speak to them.
Thanks, Mariana.
Thank you. If not, I might nominate someone for the cause. Any takers from group one to speak to what we discuss? Nixon, you're the first person I can see. Would you be willing to talk about what we discussed in our breakout room?
Okay, thank you. I thought I saw Malachi's hand, so I was.
Oh,
But anyways, sure. So this is the one you shared on right now, right? Question 1, question 2, right? Okay, all that well. Let me just find the question. Okay. So what are the possible offenses that may have been committed? We discussed a few offenses, not few, but I think we touch on the most relevant ones. We have illegal access, misuse of device, and computer related fraud, and offenses relating to child pornography. So those are like four main ones that we touched on. And so we talk about illegal access, the fact that Bob shared password from Kai's phone and gain access to someone else's information, that illegal access, given that those information were obtained through illegal and without consent. He hacked them, basically. Bob hacked them, intruded privacy. Bob can be charged with a misuse of device due to hacking. Bob could be charged with installing the programs to Kai's laptop. It changed the computer, the program, the software that he downloaded. Offenses of child pornography, with Bob selling the nude pictures of minor to explicit.com. That really touched on Article 6, which talk about the production, sale of, having to distribute the information online. And then question 2, we also talk about the devices and the platform. So we in our earlier discussion starting off this morning, we talk about the computer at the library, the cell phone device belonging to the girl, the Kai's phone, and we talk about the platforms of Facebook. Yes, and physical devices, we do not limit to include the CPU, which will have the storage of downloaded photos, and also not forgetting the library CCTV, which will point out who enters, especially we're looking at Bob, whether he enters the library that particular day. And yes, and Facebook, especially, not Facebook platform, not forgetting, and especially also the whatever that program that was installed. So thank you, group. If I missed out anything, please jump in and add more to that. I hope I catch some of the gist of what we discussed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nixon, for letting me pull up on you. Moving over to breakout room 2.
Could we get a volunteer from group 2 to just summarize their discussions?
Okay, so I'm now displaying the outcomes of our discussion. Would anyone like to speak to this? This was a really interesting discussion with a lot of practical recommendations, but I think we decided that all of the charges were relevant, the potential offences were relevant, but some in the group felt that Article 2 and Article 8 were the strongest charges to take forward. So would anyone like to speak to why we decided that? I think Ayaz, you might have had some thoughts on this point. Would you like to discuss that?
The charges, some of the group members decided that all the charges under Article 1, Article 2, 6, 8, and 9 are relevant, but there was some discussion around that, to overload the charges and to not to overload the charges, and to base our charges based on the evidence that we have, that on the prospect of securing a conviction. One was Article 2, the illegal access. If you can see on the slide, person the accessing of Kai's laptop without permission. The illegal access is evident. The use of that software that we have seen, the elements for any offense. So we need to have a person, and we have Bob. We have evidence that he's the one who was accessed it, and he had the intent of obtaining computer access. There's the password without the consent. And Article 6, we said it was tricky. Did Bob had that software? Did he produce it, or did he manufacture it, or did he procure it from somewhere? So that's why we thought that charges may not be that strong to hold to secure conviction. Perhaps more detailed investigation may allow us to have the charges. Article 8, yes, we agreed. It was a computer-related fraud. There was loss of data. Facebook account of Bob was deleted. We have that. And there was monetary reward that Kai had received from the explicit.com for posting those nude pictures on the explicit.com. So that's what we thought about. Maybe other team members want to add on.
Thanks, Ayaz. I might just also add that more information, some people thought that more information was required to determine whether or not what the situation was with Article 2. I think, Tupou, you had some thoughts on that. Did you want to elaborate?
Just illegal access. The point that we left the group chat on was on the meaning of computer system, whether that could extend to Facebook accounts. So there's two possible scenarios: Kai's unlawful access to the laptop, and then also his unlawful access to the Facebook account. Yeah, I guess that's all I will add at this time.
That's a great work, everybody. I think we've hit a lot of the really important points across identifying the offences and identifying the thinking around not just saying the offence, but considering why we're thinking about a particular offence. So well done. That is an interesting question about whether or not an account is a computer system or a network or whatever it might be. I think there are opportunities. Again, you mentioned a couple of different charges. So it doesn't have to be the single charge. It can be the illegal access of the device by using the hacking software, but also using the passwords harvested from that to access the Facebook. So I would think that in most cases that would sustain that charge. So and especially when you think about the financial benefit that's come across with that, I think that's a really good point. The only thing that's not clear, I don't think, from in relation to the Article 9 charges is whether or not Bob was aware of Maria's age. So whether or not there is an element in that charge to knowingly produce or knowing that the person is underage, whether that's a valid assessment or something to consider in relation to those offences. So that might be something to think about. Think about moving forward as well. So I guess what we'd like to do now is, if we just push on, I think, as I say, yeah, that was a great effort from everybody. I think we hit a lot of the really important points of those offences and the considerations around those offences being the likely person responsible. We've had some really good discussions on the principles behind charging and behind the prosecution process. So not only are we touching on the digital evidence, we're also looking at the legal system approach as well. So that's fantastic. So our next breakout room is to look at the strategy that we need to consider as the investigation team to get a successful outcome, successful prosecution for this matter. So what we want to do is to try and develop an understanding of the steps that we need to follow to obtain the evidence that we need. There are a couple of questions that you'll see on the screen there, and I think there's a particular question there for the prosecutors in the group in relation to any issues that may impact admissibility at trial. So in order to do this, we need to consider what devices there are, what digital assets are available, how we go about accessing them. So I think if we can roll into those breakout rooms now, and we can have an ongoing conversation around how that second phase will take place.
Okay, Marianne is going to create the breakout room, so please stand by again.
Well, welcome back, everybody. I hope, again, from the short time that I spent in both of those groups, there was a healthy discussions going on, and it would be great if we could call on someone from Group 1 to give us a bit of insight into the conversation that they've had. We've got Mariana's record keeping up on the screen right now. So if we could call from somebody in Group 1 to feedback on the discussion. Accusio, go ahead, sir.
Oh, okay, thank you. Our group was coming with some sort of answer to this question. For question 1, where and how did Kai and Maria exchange picture? We just come up with a service that Maria and Kai use the internet service like Facebook, especially Facebook Messenger. So there's 2 evidence sources that we have to look at is Facebook profile account and also Facebook Messenger service to get that evidence of the time and date when they exchange the message on Facebook Messenger. So we think about the photograph on the phone as well as information about account phone itself, and also the forensic analysis of the phone may provide access to some information. So the devices, we think that whatever devices that they use to access to conduct the exchange of the photo or that involve in sending the picture. Which devices are relevant? We come up with Maria's phone, library computer, and also the CCTV camera at the library. So who are the witnesses? Except for Maria's and Kai and Bob, we come up with whoever the people going to be involved in the process of investigation, especially when they're handling evidence, they have to be considered to be on the witness. For example, like for police, we have investigation team. There's a lot of people involved, especially like there's some people they do the photograph of the evidence. Some people they are the exhibit keeper, or they handle the exhibit before it's been handed over to the forensic people like that. So they also have to be a part of the witness. So what kind of evidence will you need to prove the offense, and what do you need to prioritize? We come up with just a lot of points, but for conclusion with our priorities is just depend on whatever the most important evidence you have to obtain first, because it have a chance to be deleted or be disposed of. That's the most important evidence you have to look at it first, and leave whatever evidence has been it's really hard to be destroyed. For example, like we put Maria's phones the first is part of our most important evidence to get, because it's going to be contained a photo that been sent to Bob, but the information from Facebook is going to be sometimes it's going to be the last place to reach out to get the information from, because his hard disk is not going to be disappeared or been deleted or something like that. So for question number 5, what domestic international or industry partners we will need to work with for preservation requests? Normally for Facebook, they have their own online portal for law enforcement to do the preservation request, and also requesting for record, but they only provide the subscriber information. So for domestically, you can reach out to the library for a copy of a camera, for library, for the library CCTV to get the time that Bob used the library computer. But mostly, for sure, that library, if the library is whether it's a private or a public library, they might be asked for a court order or access warrant for you to be able to obtain that information, to have that you try to, or that piece of information of evidence that you try to get. So we come to number 6. During the discussion, please identify any issue to consider and address at this stage, which may relate to admissibility of the evidence at trial. So we ran out of time to answer the last question, but I think this type of question is really good for our lawyers. But I have a look at I think the most important things for any evidence to be admissible in court is to make sure that it has been documented properly and also handled properly. And the best way to do that is whenever it's very short, the short chain of that piece of evidence to be going to the court is better than passing along a long chain of evidence. And I think that's our last answer. This is the answer for our last question. If hopefully if someone want to add on to our answers, more welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Alexio. Thank you for feeding back, and thank you for your contribution to Group 1. Group 2, can we have someone feed to the wider group their findings?
Sorry, my notes are a lot messier than Mariana's very neat ones. But I will just note that in the interest of time, the group decided to go with fleshing out Article 8 on computer-related fraud.
Mm-hmm.
But I might ask somebody from the group to give an overview of how the discussion went. Would anyone like
to save time, I will jump in there and try to summarize our group discussion. So like Lauren said, we decided to go with computer-related fraud and answer the questions, just focusing on that offense. So in terms of the devices, yes, the relevant devices, we looked at Kai's laptop, the library computer, Maria's phone, Bob's phone, and CCTV from the library. So you see there in the notes that the reason why we wanted a library computer, because that's where the data transfer, I mean, we could get information, the financial transaction information from there. through a search of websites that he was accessing at that time. Also Kai's laptop, yeah, that's where the software was installed. Maria's phone was used to take the photos. Yes, so on. The relevant witnesses would be, yes, definitely Kai, and also someone from the library, IT, whether that's IT personnel from the library or the librarian, to give evidence about whether they saw Bob at that time, which computer he logged into. The IT person could talk about the data that was extracted from the computer. Another important witness would be probably a digital forensic analyzer from that Tonga police, the police use, or who was actually in the police force. Required evidence. Sorry, did I cover all of the witnesses there?
I think so.
Yeah. In terms of required evidence, just extracting data from, yes, in terms of extracting data, we had an interesting discussion about, actually, no, not a discussion, but just ensuring that the data, when it's extracted, the reason why we would use a digital forensic expert is to ensure that the data is not altered in any way from the time it was extracted to the time that it is admitted into court as evidence. Also, that expert would establish from the data the sites that were visited by Bob. Sorry, there's also another note here about Maria is an important witness as well, and Kai as well. They would confirm, sorry, definitely Kai. He's a crucial witness in proving this article, this offense, that he would say something to the effect that his account was deleted on so-and-so dates, and to prove, yeah, that element of the offense. And also in procuring an economic benefit. That's the last element of the offense. So again, we'd be looking at financial institutions. Well, police would have to make further inquiries to establish which financial institution Kai was receiving that money. Sorry, Bob was receiving money from explicit.com from to establish that. Yes, we also had another point there about Bob's phone. Oh, whether or not the digital forensic analyst could get some geolocation information from that phone. Perhaps Bob took his phone with him at that time that he took the he installed the software onto Kai's laptop, or at the time that he deleted Kai's Facebook account at the library. So that would only enhance and support our case that, you know, it was Bob who deleted the account, and, you know, who was accessing the library computer at that time. We discussed preservation requests. That was in relation to question number
Question.
4, I think.
Yeah.
Yes. No, sorry, number 5, 4 or 5.
I think.
And so we
think it was 5.
considered whether, yeah, we considered whether to contact Facebook in terms of preservation requests. And there was a, back in, you really have to just weigh it out, whether it's really crucial evidence that you're going to be getting from them, or whether the evidence you have or that police already have is enough. Sorry, guys, if I miss any points that you guys made.
No, sorry, it's my notes are a bit messy, so we will tidy them up and circulate to the class afterwards. So don't worry.
That was a also interesting point in terms of cooperation, international cooperation. Instead of going to Facebook, which might take very long to get logging information, which is traffic data, you could also go through FBI. I know Fiji has their FBI counterparts there. There's also Australian Federal Police, New Zealand Police, who work very closely with our police in the Pacific. They could also assist in gathering evidence. Yes, the very last question, sorry, I'm just going to skip. The very last question was in terms of admissibility, and we touched very briefly on hearsay evidence, knowing that Facebook doesn't give evidence in a courtroom. So that's a potential challenge. But I agree definitely with Alexio in terms of the authenticity and establishing a chain of evidence and making it as short as possible. That's all from me and our group. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Look, thank you very much, everybody, for that really thorough and in-depth analysis of this particular case. And I think I have to say, you've done a really, really fantastic job. But both groups, and as a bigger group, you've done a great job in contributing and bringing your ideas to this conversation. And just one point to sort of always remember, and be it a child exploitation case or one of a case like this type of offending is incredibly challenging and distressing to the victims, in this case Maria. So we should always have a victim-centric mind to when we're doing this type of work, and it's really important to consider any support services that we may be able to direct Maria towards, and her family as well. Family is going to be victims of this as well, secondary victims. So how we look after their well-being and their welfare moving forward. The other point is, how can we get her images taken off explicit.com so that she's not haunted by these for the rest of her life? So that well-being and welfare consideration, I think, is a really important point for these types of investigations where a victim is identified. So I just wanted to sort of end on that, and I think the training that you guys have done has certainly clearly worked. You've all done a superb job today, and I'm conscious of time and conscious of how important everybody's time is. So I'd like to wrap the case study up right now. Lauren can share my contact details if any of you have any questions, or if I can help in any way with anything real world. Please, I would love to hear from you if I can help out. So again, all I can say is thank you to everyone. Really appreciate your participation today, and thank you to Mariana and Lauren for facilitating the session. So thank you very much.
Thank you, John, and thank you everyone for joining together and having such a fantastic discussion. This has been a great first session, and we thank you for making the time to come today. With that, we'll wrap it up, and as John said, let you get to the rest of all the work I'm sure you've got to do today, but hope you have a lovely weekend, and we will be in touch early next week about week 6 and the case study sessions that are coming up. Thank you, and hope you have a good day.
Thank you all. Good day.
Thank you, guys.